Modi referred to signs that Hamas may release hostages, calling it a significant step forward and adding that India would continue to strongly support all efforts towards a just and durable peace. This comes as Trump ordered Israel to immediately stop the bombing of Gaza after Hamas said that it had accepted parts of its 20-point plan to end the nearly 2-year war. He wrote on Truth Social that he believes that they are ready for a lasting peace, stressing that hostages needed to be released safely. Many nations, including Qatar, UK, Saudi Arabia, have lauded Trump for his peace efforts. While Trump's Gaza peace plan the big question right now is, will Trump's Gaza peace plan succeed? Joining me on the broadcast is Tal Hertov, who is joining us live from Israel. Ma'am, thank you so much for taking the time to join us here as we of course take a look at this big breakthrough that has seemingly been achieved in Gaza. Firstly, of course, I would like to begin by asking you, how do you view the Hamas's acceptance of this part of the US President's peace plan for Gaza? Do you think that this is a step towards a more lasting ceasefire, or do you think that this is a short-term measure with further steps also needed moving forward?
Well, thank you very much for having me on, and good morning, good afternoon, India. Great friends of Israel. It's indeed big news. Let's just start with the war, which was to get back our hostages and to defeat Hamas. Now, incurred in that, also, obviously, we want all our soldiers home safely, okay? That's Israel's side of it. We have to look now at Hamas. In India, you know very well, dealing with terror groups who've attacked your own people, that terrorists are liars and they're cynics. And in the Hamas statement, if you read it carefully, they do say, yes, we will we'll release the prisoners, as they call it, prisoners, but, okay, so they give some stipulations. And one of those stipulations is they keep insisting that they're going to be part of the leadership in Gaza after the deal. So I think what we have here, I think President Trump has done some amazing things. He's written a book called The Art of the Deal. He understands that you have to work at deals. And this is a first stage. And in a sense, what you have in the 21-point plan, you still have 19 points that need to be discussed. But for Israel, of course, the primary point is to get our hostages home. So do I trust Hamas? I mean, Hamas don't seem to have been given a timeline of when they'll do this. They've in fact said that they can't even locate all the hostages. And we've heard that story before, by the way, with the Bibas family, the mother and the baby and the little boy who were brutally murdered. So Israel is cautious. We're not jumping in thinking that Hamas wants peace. They themselves, they don't want peace, all right? They want a so-called free Palestine. Their own charter has not been revised. They want the death of every Jew everywhere. But as a stage for Israel to get back our hostages, and I think it's a very positive step.
Well, of course, ma'am, and speaking to your point of there having been previous breakthroughs as well, we have seen a lot of back and forth when it comes to achieving peace, achieving a ceasefire in the region. But this time around, what we're also seeing is a very comprehensive action plan put forward by the United States. We're seeing a lot of regional players such as Egypt and Qatar also backing the plan, also stepping in to negotiate. So of course there is a cautious approach, but do you see a shift in the region as well? Do you think that there is a positive shift that is currently being witnessed?
I do, in the sense, I mean, thanks to President Trump, to his diplomacy, really, because he's managed to get on side, and we don't know how he's done it politically, but he's managed to weave onto his side countries like Qatar, who are very problematic from Israel's point of view, of course, Egypt, who we have a cold peace with, Turkey, where there's, the rhetoric coming from the Turkish president towards Israel is quite vile, considering they're a NATO member. but nevertheless, he has got them on side, and in sense, he's put Hamas into a corner. So that's an amazing achievement. And that in itself alone has given, how do you say, it's given a fresh injection into a possible final settlement for what Gaza can look like after this conflict ends.
Well, absolutely, ma'am. And now, of course, one part of this proposal has been accepted. Moving forward from here, what do you think are the steps that are needed by both the Hamas as well as by Israel in order to achieve a more lasting peace, in order to reach to a peaceful resolution?
Okay, well, first of all, we have to be very clear that Hamas does not want peace. They do not want a two-state solution. They've said it themselves, okay? They want one Palestine, that's it. So let's not be deluded by any kind of flippant talk on their behalf. The first, like I said, the first and major thing to do here is to release the hostages. And Israel now, I saw on the Hebrew News, Israel is already making a list of releasing incarcerated Palestinian murderers, which is a very, very big step from Israel. But that would be, I mean, that would be huge for Israel to consider doing that. But this is how far we are willing to go to get our hostages back home, and also, you know, not put our soldiers at risk anymore, because we have to fight this war. I don't know how it's going to play out, the whole thing. I know that Hamas cannot be trusted. And as I say, if you read again their statement, President Trump, he would say, yes, Hamas has agreed. And Hamas writes, we've agreed, but. So I think there's a lot of undiscussed, unspoken things that are encased in that little word, but. And in one sense, I'm very not quite so optimistic for a full-term peace plan. But I am optimistic that maybe this is a step forward to get our hostages back.
Well, of course. And now just one last question to you, ma'am. Has been momentum that has been achieved by this big step, of course. What do you think is required now in order to for Israel to build some trust in the process, as well as, of course, there have been previous back and forths? How do we keep this momentum going? And not just Israel and Hamas, but the global community as well, they are coming together. What should be done in order to keep this momentum going?
Well, I think as an Israeli, and it's something that the Prime Minister has said, you know, President Trump said, Israel has to stop shelling Gaza at the moment because we can't get the hostages out. This is exactly his statement. And Israel has released a statement that they are immediately stopping the gunshots and the strikes on Gaza, because we want to enable secure passage. Now, I think, and also Israel said that contingent upon what President Trump has said, like President Trump is leading this peace deal, this possible peace deal. And I think it's very important that Israel adheres to this, because there's, as President Trump says, there's bigger fish to fry. You know, this can affect the whole Middle Eastern region. And we also have many Arab states who are repulsed, and they don't want anything to do with Hamas. I mean, look at the Abraham Accords, some of our greatest allies in the Middle East. So Israel should and are expressing willingness to follow the command of probably the greatest superpower in the whole world. So Israel needs to stick with that. And once again, I'm just a simple civilian, and there's a lot that are done in politics behind closed doors that we don't know about. So I think if Israel keeps doing what we keep doing, then we can ensure eventually a victory. And the other thing also, we'll never ever forget that President Trump saw the October the 7th movie, the film, the documents about the massacres. And you can see every time he speaks, that has greatly impacted him. And he said numerous times, Hamas will never be part of a leadership in Gaza. And that's the clause that Hamas have left open, and President Trump and Israel will not be willing for that to happen.
Well, absolutely, ma'am. Thank you so much, in fact, for joining us on the broadcast with your perspective on that as well. I also now have with me Mr. Peter Baum, who's an Israel expert and member of the British Jewish community, who is joining us on the broadcast. So, thank you for taking the time to sit with us here this morning. We're of course taking a look at what is being seen as a major breakthrough when it comes to achieving peace in Gaza. What are your first thoughts upon seeing the Hamas's acceptance of the release of hostages? Do you think that we are moving towards a lasting ceasefire in the region?
Well, one hopes so, but let's not get carried away. I've just been analysing the Hamas response to the Trump ceasefire plan. Now, Trump gave them until Sunday to respond, and they responded early. That's a good sign. However, they've been very clever, as they always are, in their response to the plan. The first response was that they would release all the hostages, and that has been seen as a major breakthrough. However, attached to those statements and some of the positives that they've responded to, such as the aid conditions, they're also suggesting that there will be a place for them in the new Palestinian governance of Gaza. And that will be totally unacceptable, as I think your previous speaker alluded to both Trump and to the Israeli administration. So this positive news that has been relayed across all global media networks should be reconsidered and analysed in the light of what Hamas are actually saying. It's by no means a done deal. And Hamas are still trying to find a way for themselves to be politically credible and to have a role to play in the envisaged Trump plan, which neither Trump nor the Israelis, and may I say also some of the more pragmatic and moderate Arab nations want to see for them. So the conflict may, although the signs are positive, depending on how Hamas react and how far they push forward on their negotiations, will determine whether the success or failure of this plan.
Well, of course, sir, and what we're also seeing as we have been speaking to people about this, there is a cautious approach because there have been previous breakthroughs as well. So there is a very cautious approach being taken at this point in time. What do you think are the next steps that are needed in order to build trust between the two sides, in order to assure that there can be lasting peace that can be achieved, and not just by Israel and Hamas, but by the other players as well? You have regional players such as Egypt and Qatar. You have the United States, of course, which is driving these talks as well.
That's very interesting. Now, actually, if I were an advisor to either side, I would certainly be telling both parties to agree to the deal, because both of them could come out to their support base as being winners in all this. Hamas has definitely won the public relations war globally, but more importantly, they could show to the world at large that actually they have not been beaten militarily. Netanyahu and his cabinet, on the other hand, can prove to the world that they have defeated the axis of evil, which has been trying to militarily defeat Israel over the last decade. And if I were, as I say, an advisor to both sides, I would advise them both to take advantage of what's on the table, because they could both be seen to come out with credibility. I've no doubt about that. Now, whether Hamas or Netanyahu will see it as pragmatically as the main actors advising them do is yet to be seen. So we don't know what's going to happen, but there will never be trust between the sides, never.
Well, of course, sir, and when we take a look at how the global community has also come together at this point in time, there was, there's someone has stated previously that what Hamas has said, what they have left unsaid, in fact, may become more important than what they have said. So while they have accepted one part of the proposal, what do you think is required now by the Hamas in order for us to actually take a look and view this as an optimistic approach when it comes to achieving peace in the region, and not just as a short-term measure but for a lasting ceasefire as well?
Yeah, I don't know whether Hamas have the flexibility to compromise as much as they need to in order to achieve peace. Now, don't forget, they still have the hostages, although the vast majority of the Gazan population has now left Gaza City, and that makes Hamas very vulnerable to the Israeli military. But what the Israeli military don't want to do is to endanger the lives of their own soldiers or the hostages. But if pressure can be brought to bear on Hamas by Qatar, Egypt and Turkey, that is when we have a possibility of getting the Trump plan achieved.
Well, of course, sir. Now, does a progressive ceasefire deal mean that those locals who were displaced will now have a way to settle back in their homes, of course, at this point in time?
If a ceasefire is achieved, then there is a very real possibility that all the civilian population can be accommodated with funding, with support, with aid, with the political will. There's no doubt about that. And then trust between Israelis and Palestinians will be brought to bear. Absolutely, I have no doubt about that. But Hamas need to compromise, need to be more flexible, as does the Israeli administration, and I'm not sure we're there yet.
Well, sir, thank you so much for joining us with your perspective on that as well.